Good morning, students. Let's begin with the chapter The Rat Trap. This chapter number 4 of the book Flamingo. Now, this particular chapter tells something about a rat trap. If we are mistaken that it is going to describe a rat trap, no, but it is a metaphor for something else. But before we begin the chapter, we need to understand few words related to a rat trap and how is a rat trapped in a rat trap. Now, a rat trap is made of wire, and it inside there is a place where we put a bait. A bait can be any food item, anything. It's not like Tom and Jerry movies where we put a block of cheese or something, but we put a food article inside, and this article acts as a bait for the rat. The rat gets tempted or lured, attracted. Tempted, you already know. It gets lured or tempted by this bait. It enters the rat trap, and as soon as it touches the bait, the door is snapped off. So the three words that are associated to a rat being caught in a rat trap is it is lured or tempted by the bait which is put inside, it enters and the door is snapped off. Now, what will be the first emotion of a rat? Of course, it would be fear. The rat now knows that the life is in danger. And the second thing is that it would make frantic efforts to escape. Now, if we compare this world to a rat trap, normally people don't compare it. But if we see this chapter, in fact, we all would believe that yes, we all are in fact caught in a rat trap. I'll just take the example of money as a bait. Now, if we compare the world to a rat trap and money as a bait, people get lured or tempted by money. They enter the rat trap. Okay, then they touch the bait, the door is snapped off. Now they are caught inside. But the irony is, contrary to the rat who is in fear, we are happy. The reason that we have got money. Now the rat makes effort to escape. The human beings never make an effort to escape. The reason, first of all, they never know that they have entered the rat trap. They are happy that they have got money, and now we want more. A human being who has entered the rat trap will want more money because he has got money, he is happy with that money, he'll buy all the material comforts of his life, and he thinks that his life has become happy and happier, and then the person inside the rat trap will want more. Now, if you don't believe this philosophy, after completing the chapter, of course, or while reading the chapter also, you will realize that yes, we all are there in a rat trap, but the problem is that we hardly ever realize that we are there inside. Because we take just example of comfort, we get used to a particular comfort in our life, like we drive a scooty or we drive a car. Then if somebody says that no, today onwards you'll not drive and you'll have to walk to your working place or something, would we be able to? The reason is of course you know the answer, no. But the reason is that we'll not be able to walk. We have been got used to a particular comfort of life, so we'll never be able to walk. So if we say that we are not there in rat trap, we are wrong. So let's do this chapter, but before that, I'll tell you something about what is this whole chapter about. The chapter is about a rat trap seller. His name is not even mentioned in the whole chapter. He has been just called by different names. He has been called a tramp because he just walks on the road. He has been called a peddler because he has got no home. He just walks on the road every time. He has been called a vagabond. A vagabond is a person who just roams on the roads. And this is by different names that he has been called in the whole chapter. His name has not been mentioned. So this rat trap seller used to make rat traps and sell them. And one day he came to a thought that when I'm selling rat traps, this whole world is also nothing but a huge rat trap. And then he was so happy. See, all the other people are there inside the rat trap. I am out of it. The reason, because the baits that he mentioned, food, shelter, then heat, and then clothing, and then joy, and all that, he did not have in his life. So he thought that I'm happy that I'm out of it, and he used to laugh at the other people whom he thought that they are there in the rat trap. Now one day it happened that his own turn came. He was presented with few baits, and one among them was money, and he got lured by that bait. He entered the rat trap, and the door was snapped off. Now he was caught. Caught in the sense, the same thing. His emotion was of fear that I have stolen something. He ran into the woods, and there he got lost in the woods. Then he entered an iron mill. The owner of the iron mill wanted to take him to his house. He did not go. Then it occurred to the owner of the iron mill that I should call him because he confused him with his old regimental comrade. He sent his daughter. The daughter convinced him, and the Rattrap seller, peddler, he went to the house of the iron master, the owner of the iron mill. Then circumstances happened in such a manner that towards the last we are happy to see this rat trap seller come out of the rat trap, which normally other people can't. So this is a mere headline or in few lines the story, but now we have to do the complete story, and this chapter is a little bit long chapter, so it would take 4 or 5 turns to complete. So let us begin with the first part of it. What is the thought about the peddler regarding the world, why he says that the world is a rat trap, and how he falls into it. So today we are going to do just 2 questions. What are the thoughts of the peddler regarding the world, why he compares the world to a rat trap, and how he falls into it? But before that, there is one more question, and what is that? That's the economic condition of the peddler. You'll have to describe how the peddler is, why his life was so sad and monotonous. Monotonous is something which is dull because it doesn't have change. So let us see this particular portion. So the first 2 paragraphs describe something about the economic condition of the peddler. But if we look at the chapter, the question can be asked in the manner, why was the peddler's life sad and monotonous? Now let's begin the chapter, and you'll be happy to know that it begins in the form of a story, as it says once upon a time. So let's begin it. Once upon a time, and one more thing, you keep the question in the mind. The question is, why was the peddler's life sad and monotonous? So let's begin. Once upon a time, there was a man who went around selling small rat traps of wire. He made them himself at odd moments from the material he got by begging in the stores or at the big farms. But even so, the business was not specially profitable, so he had to resort to both begging and petty thievery. The first time you'll find that the protagonist, the central character of the story, has been shown negative right in the beginning. He used to beg and used to thieve. Used to steal. And beggars and thieves, they have no self respect. The reason is that you have to submit your self respect in order to spread your hands in front of somebody asking for alms or for begging. And plus, at the same time, you keep your self respect aside if you steal something from somebody's house. So these are the two people, in fact, and here we show that the peddler, we find that the peddler has been shown in negative colors. He was a petty beggar and he was a petty thief also. So let's begin. But we never hate the peddler. See the next line, why? He had to resort to both begging and petty thievery to keep body and soul together. The reason of not hating him is his circumstances. In order to keep his soul inside the body, that means in order to live, this peddler had to beg, had to steal. So it was because of his circumstances. Even so, his clothes were in rags, they were torn. His cheeks were sunken because he did not get proper food, and hunger gleamed in his eyes, hunger shone in his eyes. So, if you are asked why was the peddler's life so bad, yes, he had to submit to circumstances, he had to steal, he had to beg, his clothes were in rags, his cheeks were sunken, and every time one thing could be seen in his eyes, and that was hunger. No one can imagine how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond, one who roams on the road, who plods along the roads left to his own meditations. But one day, this man had fallen into a line of thought which really seemed to him entertaining. So, we have done our first question here. Why was the peddler's life sad and monotonous? You can recall the answer. The reason, his circumstances. No money, no proper food, no home, no family. A vagabond who roams on the road, a vagabond who steals, begs, and then sells around rat trap. And you know that this business is not profitable at all. The reason who'll buy a rat trap, like people buy a rat trap once and it will serve them for the whole life, entire life. Business is profitable when you sell something which people buy very frequently. So now because of this also his life was sad and monotonous. Now we left this particular explanation with the last line, that this thought seemed to him entertaining. Which thought? We already know the answer, the thought that the world is a rat trap. Why was it entertaining? Let us see this answer. And I think so some of you must have already got the answer in your mind, that it is entertaining because he was happy I am out of it. But before that, why is the world compared to a rat trap? Let's begin with this. He had naturally been thinking of his rat traps when suddenly he was struck by the idea that the whole world about him, the whole world with its lands and seas, its cities and villages, was nothing but a big rat trap. It had never existed for any other purpose than to set baits for people. You have to underline and learn the next baits that he says. It offered riches and joys, shelter and food, heat and clothing, exactly as the rat trap offered cheese and pork, and as soon as anyone let himself be tempted to touch the bait, it closed it on him, and then everything came to an end. According to him, he said six baits: riches, money, joy, happiness. Like if we want money, if we get money once, we want more. If we get happiness once, we want more. If we get shelter, we want a better one. If we get food, we are not satisfied with the food once that we get. We want more and better. Heat, that is warmth of a family. And clothing, clothes. Like I'll give you one example of this particular thing, the last bait. People are never satisfied with the number of clothes that they have. They must be having n number of clothes in their wardrobe, but it seems to them every time that they have less number of clothes with them. This is where we understand that we all are there in a rat trap. So now these are the six baits, and the last line that we have read is the people are tempted to touch the bait. It closed it on him, that means snapped off, and then everything came to an end. The whole world. Now we have done the answer. Why did he compare the world to a rat trap? We are getting the answer here. But the next thing is, why was he happy? Let's see this answer. The world had, of course, never been very kind to him, so it gave him unwanted joy to think ill of it in this way. This is one human nature, students. If people are never good to us, if something bad happens to us, happens to them, then from inside a feeling comes, and it comes unconsciously, a feeling of happiness that good, this happened with him. If something bad happens to him, people feel very bad from inside that something good is happening to that particular person. Now, here the world was not good to this person. So, when bad was happening to the world, he was happy. So, the first answer is this. Then, next, it became a cherished pastime of his during his many dreary ploddings, dreary, lonely ploddings. Then, to think of people he knew who had let themselves be caught in the dangerous snare. Snare is trap, dangerous snare, and of others who are still circling around the bait. The second point is he was happy to see people falling inside the trap, and he was happy that he was out of it. But we have got one more word over here for trap, and that is snare. So if people are caught, we call them trapped. We can use one more very good word, and that is ensnared. ensnared, ensnared. So now if we revise the words, people are lured or tempted by the baits. They enter, they touch, the door is snapped off, they are ensnared or trapped. So now we have done two questions today. One is the economic condition of the peddler. Why was his life sad and monotonous? Second question is why did he compare the world to a rat? And I'm sorry, one more question, that is why was he happy? Why was the thought entertaining? Entertaining because he was out of it, and entertaining because the world was not good. So thinking bad about the world gave him happiness. Now let us see the next question, which can be asked as a 6-mark question and which is important for us otherwise also. How did he fall into the rat trap in spite of knowing that it is a rat trap? So let's see this. One dark evening, as he was trudging along, just walking here and there, the road, he caught sight of a little grey cottage by the roadside, and he knocked on the door to ask shelter for the night. Nor was he refused. Instead of the sour faces which ordinarily met him, the owner, who was an old man without wife or child, was happy to get someone to talk to in his loneliness. The important word you have to remember is loneliness here. Was the peddler lonely? Yes. Out of loneliness, he knocked the door of a crofter's house. Crofter is this old man who worked in an iron mill, and those people who worked in an iron mill are called crofters. So he knocked the door of a crofter's house. The crofter himself was also lonely, so he opened the door for a vagabond. Who allows a vagabond inside the house? But this crofter allowed because he himself was very lonely. So we understand these are two lonely people. But don't you think so? He has presented him with the first bait, and that bait is shelter. So he opened the door for him. Then immediately he put the porridge pot on the fire and gave him supper. With that, something should click in your mind. He gave him food, and that is one more bait. Then he carved off such a big slice from his tobacco roll that it was enough both for the stranger's pipe and his own. In olden days, people used to smoke tobacco, which used to come in papers and all. So you take a little bit of tobacco, put it into the paper, roll it, and you can use it as a cigar, or it can be filled in the pipe, and then people smoked it. But the important thing here is, if he gives him something to smoke, and people smoke because they believe it gives them pleasure or joy, and with this you should know joy was also one of the baits. Then it was enough both for the stranger's pipe and his own. Finally he got out an old pack of cards and played majolist with his guest until bedtime. So understand one thing, he played with him, that means he presented one more bait, and that was joy. Then the old man was just as generous with his confidences as with his porridge and tobacco. The guest was informed at once that in his day of prosperity his host had been a crofter at Ramsjo Iron Works. You can understand the name of the place is this. The name of the place is Ramsjo, and the crofter worked in the iron mill, and he worked. Now he did not, and on what his life depended on now, let's see. It was his cow which supported him. Yes, that bossy was extraordinary. This bossy is used for the cow. That bossy was extraordinary. She could give milk for the creamery every day, and last month he had received all of 30 kroners in payment. Kroner is Swedish currency, just like dollars and pounds and all. This currency of Sweden, because the story is of Sweden, it is 30 kroner in payment. The stranger must have seemed incredulous. Incredulous means unbelievable. That means the look on the in the eyes of the peddler was, no, I don't believe you. How can you get 30 kroners? So the look was of disbelief. He said that, he did not say, but there was in his eye a look of disbelief. The stranger must have seemed incredulous, for the old man got up, went to the window, took down a leather pouch which hung on a nail in the very window frame, and picked out 3 wrinkled 10 kroner bills. Understand, this was the biggest bait. Not only he showed him the money, he also showed him the place where the money was kept. In the window frame, a nail was there. On the nail hung a leather pouch. Inside the leather pouch were the 30 kroners, and he showed that money to the peddler. Will it act as the final nail in the coffin for the peddler? Let us see. He is already tempted by the other baits. Except clothes, the other baits have been offered, and the last bait is money. Then these he held up before the eyes of his guest, nodding knowingly, and then stuffed them back into the pouch. The next day, both men got up in good season. Getting up in good season, getting up early. The crofter was in a hurry to milk his cow, and the other man probably thought he should not stay in bed when the head of the house had gotten up. They left the cottage at the same time. The crofter locked the door and put the key in his pocket. The man with the rat trap said goodbye and thank you, and thereupon each went his own way. But half an hour later, the rat trap peddler stood again before the door. He did not try to get in, however. He only went up to the window, smashed a pane, stuck in his hand, and got hold of the pouch with the 30 krona. He took the money and thrust it into his own pocket. Then he hung the leather pouch very carefully back in its place and went away. Do you understand? He fell into the rat trap. Yes. But for him, it was not a big thing, because earlier he used to steal money from people. He'll not realize it now that he has fallen into the rat trap. But the irony is that, in spite of knowing that it was a trap, he fell into it. This is ironical. So the questions that we have done today is, why was the peddler's life sad and monotonous from here? Then why did he compare the world to a rat trap? Then why was the thought entertaining? And how did he fall into the rat trap? This is all for today. Then tomorrow, the next session, will continue with the second portion of it. This chapter might take us 5 sittings to complete. This is the first portion. And be careful that we have done 4 questions, and we should now know the answer to these 4 questions. Thank you.